Hello, my name is Trevor Moss. I'm a journalist with Recommerce Intelligence. I'm joined by Augustin Becquet. Augustin is the CEO of the Recommerce Group and also the president of the European Refurbishment Association. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
So let's kick off. I think the first thing we can talk about is the new re-index that Recommerce Group recently published that annually provides insights into pricing and customer trends. This one, of course, looking at 2025. Maybe you could just talk us through some of the important findings in that report.
Yes, so with the findings, that are I would say quite trivial, are basically iPhones are in the top position of this index, and so the generation minus 4, iPhone 13, is the current bestseller on the refurbished index of Recommerce. We are seeing also the iPhone 14 getting into the top position and gaining 5 positions. And then we are seeing that there are one Samsung in this top 10. So the Samsung Galaxy S22. So yes, it's mainly iPhones that are in the top wanted devices in the segment.
And are you seeing some of the other brands like Samsung and maybe Xiaomi starting to become more mainstream?
So there are a bit more indeed of Android brands such as Xiaomi. Also, the Pixel is getting into the top 20, which is great. So the key point, to get into this top position is how far the product from a software perspective can last. And so we know that Apple is very strong in supporting their operating system. So Samsung made a bold move a couple of years ago on the S series. So now, keeping an update for 7 years. So it's helping them getting into this, top position now. And so we hope that more and more brands will follow, in, giving access, I would say to update, as often as possible and as long as possible from a security standpoint mainly, and also give access to the spare parts. So now there is an obligation at European level to give also access to spare parts 7 years after the last shipment of the new product. So that should also help having more diversity in this pricing index and that cloud index.
One of the findings from the recent study was you mentioned the growing professionalization of the sector, the refurbishment sector. Could you talk us through what you mean by that and what that means in real terms in particular for buyers?
So yes, so as mentioned, so there are more and more, I would say, obligation to the OEM, so especially on the spare parts, and so we're also seeing OEMs being more and more proactive because they see an interest of having a higher residual value. So when a customer, is buying a new flagship from, those brands, they will have, I would say, their old phone to resell at a higher value and help them decide to go to the next generation of their preferred brand. So the OEMs see more and more interest into, I would say, be a partner to us in basically developing this second hand.
But thinking about this from the consumer side, you seem to believe that the market is getting better for people who want to buy a second-hand phone, that it's getting easier to find quality products at good prices.
Yeah. So at Recommerce side, so what we are doing, first of all, is that we are part of a label called the REC label. So it's giving additional, I would say, confidence for the end user. So it's basically a label that is independent and that is given by Becquet. So we're giving this the additional proof that we are doing qualitative second-hand devices. Second point is that we are also an official refurbisher for Samsung brand. We are also an official repair partner of Samsung and Apple. So we're working as close as possible from the OEM to make sure that we are refurbishing, with all the good tools and the good parts, and so that we reach a high level of quality.
And you're seeing that the price you would pay for a quality secondhand device is relative to the price of a brand new equivalent is going down. Is that right?
So as we speak, there is an increase on all the new products because of the memory increase. So for sure, there are more room for refurbished devices, and so additional pricing interest for the end consumer. I think what is important also to see is that to get back to the quality topic, we are resetting what we call AU specification devices. There are, as you know, different specification on Apple products, on Samsung product between, US, Asia, and Europe. And so the AU products, the products that were sold in AU as new, are for sure far better in terms of, network fine tuning. And so that means that the battery consumption is less than when you buy a device that can come from the US or Asia. So this is also one additional point that we're having at Recommerce. We are buying back devices in Europe from European consumer, and so reselling AU specifications, which is also helping from a quality standpoint for the end consumer.
And I assume you're seeing an effect that as quality rises, that just builds confidence in the market, and more and more consumers feel that this is a viable option for them.
Yeah, so it also depends on where the consumer are buying, but I think consumer understand what are the trust channels where they can buy. So on our side, we are reselling mainly through key telco, key retail, key e-tail that are, serious players such as, Amazon, Vodafone, Bouygues Telecom, you name it, Boulanger for the retail side. And so all those trusted channels, they are very, I would say, committed to resell a qualitative product to their consumers.
So thinking back to 2025, I think that there's obviously a strong sense that this market is growing as a whole and will continue to do so. What were the highlights of last year from your side? And what were the most encouraging signs you saw for the development of the market?
So, I mean, on our side at Recommerce, so we grew 20% last year. So we are on the same growth trajectory. So we also made the acquisition of one player in Switzerland named Verkaufen. And so we see, the market consolidating because most of the players in Europe are small players, and so they need consolidation in the sense that they are, for most of them, not profitable. And so we need scale in our business to make sure that we can be profitable. So Recommerce is one of the players that can consolidate the market. And so, yes, this is the major trend that we are seeing, a lack of cash in our industry, just because, the funds, financial firms today are willing to invest in other areas than the green area. Unfortunately, it's all about AI, as we know today, and also it's all about investing in companies with positive EBITDA. And so, unfortunately, in our industry, most of the players are still losing money, and they have lost a lot of money. So we are in a time where the market will consolidate and has to consolidate somehow. So Recommerce will be one of those players able to consolidate and make sure that there is enough scale to be, I would say, on the way to be present on the long run, because this is an industry that is still quite new, and so the industry is getting more and more mature, but again, needs bigger players to operate.
So do you feel that this process of consolidation still has quite a long way to run? Is this going to be the story for the next few years?
Yes, I think this is going to be the story for the next few years, and Recommerce will play its part for sure. The market overall vision is that short term it is a help by this increase of memory. But as we are in a circular economy, that means that people who are looking to buy a new phone might delay their willingness to purchase a new phone because of the price increase. So on the very short term, this memory price increase is good and will help, I would say, the second-hand business. But on the mid-long term, it's not always positive to have, I would say, a new market that is not so dynamic. So we think that 2026 will be an overall good year, but this memory increase should not last too long. Otherwise, it might have also some negative effect at the end of the day on the second-hand business. So we'll see what's going to be the next quarters. But so short term, we see a high demand on our products. It might change in H2 2026.
Do you feel encouraged overall, though, that it seems that the idea of buying a second-hand device has become more mainstream now, that most people, even people who a couple of years ago wouldn't have considered that, are now seeing that as a sensible option for them?
Yeah, so in our different studies, we're running yearly studies for nearly 10 years now, and so we are seeing that more than half of the European consumers are considering buying secondhand. So very clearly, there are more and more people willing to buy secondhand, and in markets such as France, it's 20% of consumers that are actually buying a second-hand phone. So yes, we see the interest growing more and more for the price topic, and unfortunately less for the green aspect. But yes, more and more consideration into buying second-hand devices.
And one dimension that, of course, is very important is the regulatory or legislative side, which I know you follow closely, especially through the European Refurbishment Association. And the EU has been very active on this front, looking closely at sustainability. And obviously that has implications for positive and negative, I think, for the resale market potentially. Could you try and simplify this for us and talk us through some of the important developments that you saw last year and how the direction of travel in terms of legislation in Europe might impact the Recommerce business?
Yeah. So as mentioned earlier, there were a lot of things made around the spare parts, which is good. So everything that is around right to repair is good. It's also very important to continue to push on products that are designed to last. And so we are working hand in hand on this topic to make sure that the devices that are put into the market are easier to repair. There were, very end of 2024, the USB-C law also coming into force, which is fantastic because that means there is less e-waste on every charger, and so that's very positive for fighting e-waste. And so the next big topic is the digital product passport. At Recommerce side, we are ready because we are already giving all those information to our end user. All the things that has been checked, all the spare part that have been changed, and so we think that is going to bring more clarity, more transparency, and so that's a very positive move. We think for the refurbished and qualitative refurbished industry. So we are, as we speak, working very closely on this topic.
And that digital product passport, do you see that giving more confidence to consumers, that they will feel more confident about buying a product because they can see where it's come from effectively?
Exactly, and we think it's going to also help avoid the fraud because there are a lot of fraudsters, unfortunately, in our market. Players are frauding against VAT, marginal VAT, WEEE taxes, copyright levies, carton box tax, and so on and so forth. So we have many taxes, and unfortunately, a lot of players that are, I would say, outside of the EU or even in the EU are under pressure, and so have no choice but to fraud. So having this digital passport will give far more information and will force the people are setting to give more information. And so that should help a lot, the end user and the authorities to see, what are the products, where they are coming from, if the VAT margin was properly, I would say, paid, and so on and so forth. So we think it's a very, very positive move for our industry.
Do you feel that the EU could do a bit more to help the industry on issues like tax and VAT, given that it helps with the sustainability agenda?
I think the marginal VAT regime is fantastic to support true circularity in Europe. So we have already something that is super strong. What we need from the different states and from the EU is basically more control. But so we have I think all the right mechanics to make sure that European circularity can work. And then yes, if we can pay less copyright levies, we'll be happy because there are less and less content that is really downloaded on the devices, and so it's all about streaming today. So we feel like there are some taxes that are a bit outdated. So yes, so that'll be my hope that we stop those taxes that are outdated, basically.
Hmm. And what's the timeline on that digital product passport? Is that something that's coming this year, or is it going to take a while?
Yeah, so that should be enforced by 2027. That's going to come fast. So on our side, as mentioned, we are already ready.
You mentioned that the fraud issue, that there are some unscrupulous players in the sector. Do you see the digital product passport as effectively or being a big part of the solution to that, or do you think that other measures might be needed as well?
So that's going to help because again, the consumers will have access to more information, and so that's it's going to help consumer understand why there are some price gaps between one player to another. Well, so that's one thing. I think that's gonna also positive in the sense that we will know where the device will come from. If they're coming from European consumer, and so we'll be able to track where is the origin from the device. And then in terms of fighting the fraud, I think with all the things that are happening around Shein, Temu in Europe, there are more and more, I would say, understanding from the different governments, on what are the things that should be enforced to make sure that the products that are landing in Europe are basically respecting the EU law. So I think we are making progress on this front.
You touched briefly on AI, and you talked about how a lot of the sort of investment capital is going in that direction. Do you see much disruption within the sector from AI, or maybe from automation or other new technologies? And are these areas you're looking at Recommerce Group yourselves to try and modernize your own processes?
Yeah. So of course, there are many things that at Recommerce we're doing with AI today already from process perspective. We are also announcing in a couple of days at MWC new testing tools based on AI. So yes, a lot of things that are helping our purchasing process on the buyback side, and also our resale process. And so yes, we see a lot of interest in what we call conversational commerce. And so we'll also announce several innovation at Mobile World Congress on this front.
So just to sum up then, I think we've talked through some of the main challenges that the sector's facing, but I think clearly that the sort of big story overall is that the market is growing, and clearly demand is strong, and more people see refurbished devices as a viable alternative. I mean, against that backdrop, what are you expecting for the next couple of years? Are you expecting this market to keep growing and the market to keep consolidating? Are there any other challenges we haven't discussed that you think will need to be addressed?
Yeah, I mean, so that's exactly the direction we're heading. The margins are under pressure for most of the players. And so, yes, most of the players are losing money. And so that will not be something that can last for a long time. So many of those players are frauding today to avoid total collapse. But I think with the all the things that the authorities are putting in place, those players will have no choice but to get back to I would say regular practice and find a way to survive either by selling their business or gaining further scale. So yes, so consolidation will happen, and we are convinced that with the transparency coming into force thanks to the digital passport and different initiative taken by the EU, we should live in a world that is more sustainable for all the serious players of our industry.
And the answer to that, presumably, when there are lots of fragmented players that are losing money, is to get scale within the sector for, as you
Exactly.
say, consolidation, and then bigger players can make those margins work.
Exactly. It
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.